Sir.
Thank you. Would you please take the roll?
Representative Alamand. Present. Representative Angelos.
Excused?
Representative Haroldson.
Present.
Representative Pendergraft.
Here.
Representative Sherwood. Here. Representative Smith.
Here.
Chairman Bear.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Just a quick announcement. We're going to hold off on the two construction bills for just a moment and deal with some re-referrals. The House Education Committee is meeting right now, so we're going to go through that bill. There's people in this audience that need to get to that meeting for some other bills. So we'll quickly go into a re-referral of House Bill 1818. That is Career Technical Education Funding. I don't believe we have anyone here to present the bill, so we'll go through the bill ourselves. Is there anyone here that would present this bill? No, that's what I thought. All right, so pleasure of the committee. I'm sorry, move to pass. Okay, motion to pass, seconded. Discussion. Any discussion? Representative Haroldson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just, I believe obviously it's, as we look at CT and the importance of that, I think this is an opportunity to continue moving that direction.
Further discussion? Okay. Ms. Childress, would you please take the roll?
Roll call, House Bill 18 do pass. Representative Alamand.
Aye.
Representative Angelos.
Aye.
Representative Haroldson.
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft.
Aye.
Representative Sherwood. Aye. Representative Smith.
Aye.
Chairman Bear.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, 7 ayes.
Thank you. Appreciate your patience to dispense with that. We're going to go ahead and take care of the other re-referral while we're at it. So that is House Bill 169. And the bringer of that bill is also detained. So I'll work the bill here if we get an opportunity. Any motions? You want to work the bill? Pleasure of the committee. May I recommend that we take a little time and work this bill?
Yeah, let's move the bill.
All right. All right, starting on page 1. You can see we have definitions of taxation. This is dealing with taxation. This is the similar to the Senate File 54 of last year. There are changes. You can see a major change on page 2 in paragraph A on lines 8 through 13. We see a difference here where we are doing a 50% tax relief on the residential property rather than a 25%. And there is also a cap of $1 million in fair market value for that residential property. Any questions on line 2 or page 2? Moving on, page 3. Page 4. Here in page 4, again, for the backfill, we have $100 million coming out of general fund. Any questions or comments on page 4? Page 5. On page 6, you'll see that there's $125 million coming out of the LISRA, Legislative Stabilization Reserve Account, also known as the Rainy Day Fund. And again, this is precisely what we had in Senate File 54 of last year. Any questions or concerns on page 6? Did I get it backwards? Okay, so it was $100 million out of LISRA, 125 out of general fund. Thank you for that correction, Representative Sherwood. Yes, you're right. There it is on line 3. Thank you. The bringer of the bill has come into the room. Chairman Locke, would you care to opine on this bill?
I'm very sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Catch your breath, please.
Catching up, running from one place to the other. And I don't know how much detail you'd like us to go through. You'd like me to go through on this?
I think we're very familiar with the bill. Maybe you'd like to discuss, why this number was chosen, this 225 million.
I chose this number partially just to make sure that we at least covered the targeted 50%. It left a little additional space in there to make sure we did that. I wanted to be sure we could at least achieve the 50% appropriation.
From the state to the counties,
Back to
cities,
the
and
counties and
schools.
cities, correct. So that was the biggest reason for that targeted amount, was to make sure we could cover that. And admittedly, I wanted to be just a little high to make sure we could do that.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Martineau, I have a question. Are you available to answer a question or two for us? Oh, there's Mr. Richards. When we don't have a complete backfill like this, I assume that there's going to be a profile that shows that the unfunded portion for school foundation will then be funded by other means from the state, otherwise known as a backfill from LISRA should the school foundation program fall short to that $100 million mark.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, unlike the local governments, we will have illustrated an increase in the entitlement, meaning districts will not be able to generate sufficient revenues to fund the model formula, and a likely decrease in the recapture districts for the same reason. The school foundation program will make up those payments from its own reserves to the extent the balance does not drop below $100 million at the end of each fiscal year. To the extent it does drop below $100 million, which is a possibility in this environment, then you're exactly correct, Mr. Chairman. Resources from the Legislative Stabilization Reserve account would automatically provide the necessary resources to the SFP to bring that balance up to $100 million.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Just a follow-on question for you. If we have this situation, well, I'll just ask you this. Based on everything being as we see at this very moment, no change in the price of oil, no change in additional bills that affect the school foundation program, do you have an estimate of what this bill's effect will be and the potential of a withdrawal from LISRA?
Mr. Chairman, right now, I believe you have roughly $175 million available in that account. If this is a 50% clawback, and I recognize that number might be a little bit different, it looks like the grant and aid payments from the 600 series are roughly $100 million per year for the school foundation program, or $50 million if half of that is impacted. So it is likely that the $100 million threshold would be reached. And the reason I say that is 176 minus approximately 100 million for those 2 years gets you below that threshold.
Thank you very much. Okay. Any other questions? Questions for the bringer of the bill? Representative Harrelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Locke, thank you for being here today and speaking with us on this. Can you explain to me kind of the relationship between the ballot initiative, the People's Initiative that we've seen come out, and then this? And we have got some other bills in there as well, but just could you talk about what that would look like if this were to go into effect and that a ballot initiative were to get voted through? Is there one that supersedes another, or would we have to revisit this, or how does that work?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative Harrelson. So my intent with this bill, this is, of course, short-term relief, and it is structured, I would say, somewhat like the ballot initiative, but not directly like the ballot initiative. And I was very intentional in this bill to ensure it does not conflict with the will of the people. And so this bill would be for the next 2 years. The ballot initiative, theoretically, now, I won't speak to that in extreme detail, so I want to be cautious on that, because I'm sure there's many nuances to the ballot issues that I don't have at the tip of my fingers. But that would be voted on, say, in 2026, at the next election. So it could go into effect at 2027. The goal with this bill, this would sunset before that ballot initiative would go in place. And it is one of a little bit of my thinking here is to make sure we get some backfill in place, because the one thing that as I do understand the ballot initiative, there would be no backfill on that 50% ballot initiative. And that is one point certainly to be made there.
Follow up? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman Locke. We appreciate your being here to present that. Is there anyone else here to testify on House Bill 169? Okay. We'll close public testimony on House Bill 169. What is the committee's pleasure now? Move to pass. Seconded. Do I have a second? Seconded by Representative Alaman. Moved by Representative Angelos. And Ms. Childress, would you please take the roll?
Roll call vote, House Bill 169 do pass. Representative Alaman?
Aye.
Representative Angelos?
Aye.
Representative Harrelson?
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft?
Aye.
Representative Sherwood?
No.
Representative Smith?
Aye.
Chairman Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you have 6 ayes, 1 no.
Go ahead, Representative Sherwood.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for the moment here. I just wanted to explain my no vote on that. When I was door knocking this summer, my constituents said, yeah, it would be nice to have property tax relief, but not at the expense of stable funding for our public schools and our education. So it's a reflection of my constituents' value that I vote no on this. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other comments on the bill before we move on? Okay. All right, now we'll be moving on to state-funded capital construction. And I think we'll dispense with K through 12 first. Mr. Richards, if you would please take us through the bill. This would be 25 LSO 0596.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 25 LSO 0596 is your supplemental K-12 school facilities appropriations legislation. You will note that it has a -2, and that is because the Select Committee on School Facilities has already sponsored an alternative piece of legislation before you have marked this up. So know that that's the reason for the -2. Section 1 begins on the bottom of page 1, and this provides a definition of priority on the top of page 2. This is essentially a designation that the School Facilities Commission uses within its budget recommendations. Subsection C on page 2, beginning on line 7, provides that these funds are available from the effective date until the project is complete. So capital construction and IT projects typically do not have a reversion date at the end of the biennium, and this language allows them to expend those funds until project completion. Subsection D provides and guides the expenditure of the funds, and specifically designates that these are estimates based upon the Governor's Office, Construction Office, and the School Facilities Commission. This is important in subsection D for the reporting requirements and when transfers between projects are and are not allowed. In addition, this also assists in the opportunity to generate the best bid for the state because we are not identifying each particular project and a dollar amount associated with it. You're providing a suite of projects, for instance, in the component projects. Subsection E on page 3, line 10, indicates that these funds are not an entitlement or a guaranteed amount. We have very similar language in the state capital construction. And then finally, the subsection F provides for a reporting of the deployment schedule and the expenditures and any deviation from the estimates. Subsection G, starting on page 4, line 10, is the heart of the bill. All of that precursor language is really boilerplate for projects. Romanet I on line 14 begins the component projects. There are $29.8 million associated with those. There are no reductions in this, and I would note on page 5, lines 15 and 16, those two projects are authorized, but there is not sufficient funds within the appropriation to cover those two. That is also a standard practice.
Mr. Richards, when we have a situation like that, if there's a reversion or extra funds available from these prior 14 projects, would it automatically revert to these two projects before reverting back to the state?
Mr. Chairman, that's correct.
Thank you. Continue, please.
Just for structurally, what isn't in the bill is also sometimes important. So on page 4, line 13, what you're not seeing there is what would have been subparagraph I, or Romanet I, which was the Gillette High School. And just for documentation, the amount on that after the new reversion is $144,569,700, just in case there's a desire to revisit that at some point. Moving on to page 5, once again, on line 17, what isn't in the bill is also sometimes important, and what isn't in the bill on line 17 is the transportation facility in Campbell County, or the ancillary buildings, and that amount would have been $13,531,504. Next, what is in the bill, Romanet 2, beginning on line 18, provides for unanticipated costs in the amount of $1,789,963. This is essentially 6% of the previously identified $29 million for the component projects. One more comment there. If the Gillette Campbell County High School and transportation facilities were included, that amount would read $11,711,428. Again, just for the committee's background. Next, on the bottom of page 5, the last item that is not appearing here is the demolition for those facilities, and that would have been in the amount of $7,256,548. The reason I note that is just the grand total of your actions were reductions totaling $279,217. That's the total amount that was removed from this budget. And then finally, on page 6, subsection H, this allows up to $13.4 million of previously appropriated funds that would have reverted back to the school foundation program to be held by the state construction department and be used for inflationary costs or supplemental funds associated with previously approved commission projects funded by the legislature. Finally, Mr. Chairman, on page 7, section 2 provides that the bill is effective immediately. And that is consistent with a lot of construction appropriations, such that this potential for using this summer as a construction season is still available, as opposed to a July 1 effective date where that opportunity might be missed.
Mr. Richards, just to help the public and this body, which is new at this, when we go through this capital construction bill, we'll be voting on it now to finalize this bill. But there's been some desire to try to get the high school back in there. And when are the opportunities? I know we're going to re-refer this bill back to this committee to deal with the funds that are being expended. Is that an opportunity for this committee to address the high school again? And the body obviously would have that opportunity on 3 readings. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, you're absolutely correct. Let me be clear. You are welcome to make those amendments today. And you could defer review of the final bill with those amendments to the chair. That happens regularly in your interim committees, right? The committee might mark up in November, and then LSO legal staff would make the revisions and get confirmation from the chair that that was indeed the intent and send that to the floor. That will take a couple of days, unfortunately. You marked this up, I think, last Thursday, and we have to get back in the queue, if you will, a queue of several dozen other bills to expedite that. We will, because this is a committee bill, we will move that as quickly as possible. The other alternative is to vote on it unamended, and the Speaker, by rule, all bills with appropriations must come to this committee on the House side. This is clearly a bill with appropriations, so it will be referred to you, and you have an opportunity to amend at that time and take it back to the Committee of the Whole. There is one distinction that is important. That is, if you do the amendment before introduction, it does not require a majority of your colleagues to include any of your amendments. It would require a majority of your colleagues to take things out. If you wait until HAC receives the bill for referral, it will require a majority of your colleagues to agree with you to insert that language on the floor.
Thank you. And I think what he was describing is what we commonly see as a committee of the whole amendment, committee amendment. So that's where it would require a majority of the body. Right? Thank you, Mr. Richards. I think we're ready to discuss the bill amongst ourselves. Is there any comments or discussion on this bill? You've heard the potential opportunities to get another bite at the apple. Are there any motions? Go ahead, Vice Chair Pendergraft.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we do pass.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to pass the bill. Is there a second? Second. I'm sorry, who said that? Seconded by Representative Scott. Any further discussion? Okay. Ms. Childress, will you please take the roll?
Roll call vote on supplemental K-12 school facilities appropriations -2 do pass. Representative Alaman? Aye. Representative Angelos? Aye. Representative Haroldson?
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft?
Aye.
Representative Sherwood? Aye. Representative Smith?
Aye.
Chairman Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, 7 ayes.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to state capital construction. Mr. Richards, I have a question for you. You briefly mentioned that there is another bill causing that previous bill to be -2 that came out of Select Committee School Facilities. Can you tell me the status of that bill?
Mr. Chairman, I don't believe there's been any action that has been received for introduction by the House. I can remember we were in the Jonah, or the legislature was meeting in the Jonah facilities, and staff referred to them as dueling bills, which were essentially the same capital construction bills. So that is a possibility that both bills move. The downside with that, just so appropriators are aware, is it will render page 4 of the fiscal profile essentially useless because it will have a number of double counts. Maybe not everything, but a number of double counts.
Thank you. Any questions about that? All right. Mr. Richards, please proceed with 25 LSO 556.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
If it is all right with the board, I will be presenting the capital
Absolutely.
construction bill.
Absolutely.
Catherine Camerati, LSO Budget Fiscal. I'm here to present on 25 LSO 556, otherwise known as the State Funded Capital Construction Bill. Pages 1 through 2 provide for the provisions of the bill and define funds. So starting on page 1, lines 1 through 5, this act is related to state-funded capital construction. It provides for definitions, appropriations for purposes and positions, making appropriations for capital construction, providing for transfers, and effective date. Moving on to page 2, section 1, subsection A. This page provides all of the definitions of the funds and some other definitions. Notably, PER, or private revenue, and S13, the strategic investments and projects account, are used in this bill. Line 8 provides the definition for PR, or private revenue, which just means that it's from private funding sources. And line 15, S13, are the strategic investments and projects account. At the bottom of the page, subsection B, that is for the appropriations for projects, shall remain in effect until the project is completed unless otherwise provided. The amounts appropriated shall be expended only on the project specified, and any unexpended, unobligated funds remaining upon completion of a project shall revert to the accounts from which they were appropriated unless otherwise provided. The amounts appropriated in this act are intended to provide a maximum amount for each project from any source excluding contingency funding, and shall not be construed to be an entitlement or a guaranteed amount. That's relatively standard language that we include in the capital construction bill. Moving on to section 2 at the bottom of page 3 and sort of through the top of page 4, these are actually getting into the capital construction projects. As a preface, the House Appropriations Committee did mark up the capital construction bill, and they did not make any monetary changes from the governor's recommendation, but added language in the form of 3 fiscal notes and some language in the next section. And we will go over those as we walk through the bill.
Please proceed.
Page 4, line 4, the first project is the State Construction Department Level 1 and Level 2 Bundle and Master Planning Studies for $712,000 S13. Line 5 is the State Building Commission Contingency Fund Replenishment for $4 million S13, and I will be rounding throughout. Line 6 starts one of 2 Attorney General projects for the Law Enforcement Academy, this being the Emergency Vehicle Operations Complex, or EVO Complex, for $4.3 million S13, and includes the footnote number 1 added by the House Appropriations Committee. Footnote 1, starting at the bottom of page 4, states that the State Construction Department is authorized to expend a portion of these appropriations as necessary to fund one existing at-will employee contract position for the duration of these projects for the purposes of administrating and managing design and construction activities. Line 7 is the second Attorney General project for the Law Enforcement Academy firearms ranges for $36.6 million S13 and includes footnote number 1. Line 8 is the Department of Health's Veterans Home for $79 million S13 and includes footnote 2 as added by the HAC, or the House Appropriations Committee. This footnote language is on page 5, lines 4 through 7, and is identical to footnote 1. The House Appropriations Committee is authorizing the State Construction Department to expend a portion of the appropriation as necessary to fund one at-will employee contract AWEC position. Line 9 is for the Central Wyoming College Industrial Maintenance Construction Light Manufacturing Facility Level 3 Design and Construction, and this is just authorization for these funds only. This is not a new appropriation, but rather allowing the colleges to expend private revenue for this project in an amount of $4 million private revenue. Line 10 starts one of 4 projects for the Laramie County Community College. This project is for the exterior renewal Phase 2 for the Automotive Technology Building exterior renovation, Level 3 Design and Construction. 2 amounts of $2.1 million private revenue authorization and an appropriation of $2.6 million S13 for a total of $4.7 million. Line 12 is the second Laramie County Community College project. This project is for the exterior renewal Phase 2, Science Center Building exterior renovation, Level 3 design and construction for $3.3 million authorization of private revenue and $4.1 million appropriation S13 for a total of $7.4 million. Line 14 is the third Laramie County Community College project. This project is for the exterior renewal Phase 2, Crossroads Building exterior renovation, Level 3 design and construction for $3.2 million authorization of private revenue and $4.1 million appropriation of S13 for a total of $7.3 million. Line 16 is the fourth Laramie County Community College project. This project is for the exterior renewal Phase 2, College and Community Center Building exterior renovation, Level 3 design and construction for $3.2 million private revenue authorization and $4 million S13 or strategic investments and projects account. Line 18 is for the Sheridan College in the Northern Wyoming Community College District for the Science Building renovation and expansion. That's a Level 3 design and construction project for $10 million private revenue authorization. The last two projects are for the Department of Corrections. Line 19, the Department of Corrections, all facilities, so those being Lusk, Newcastle, Rollins, Riverton, and Torrington, the security electronics integration and upgrades, Level 3 design and construction for $18 million S13. And line 20, the Department of Corrections, Wyoming State Penitentiary in Rollins, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning equipment replacement or HVAC project, Level 3 design and construction for $8.4 million S13. An actual total of $191,478,650 million as noted on line 22 of the page. And that breaks out as $165,771,697 S13 and $25,706,953 private revenue. Moving through the bottom of page 4 to the middle of page 5, these are the footnotes that we went over, but right in the middle of the page, starting on line 9 is section 3. This is a transfer of funds which the HAC directed the state auditor to transfer $154.3 million from the LSRA, or the Legislative Stabilization Reserve account, to the Strategic Investments and Projects account, rather than the transfer be made from the LSRA, the LISRA, to the general fund, to the Strategic Investments and Projects account. Page 6, oh, yes.
Go ahead.
And page 6 provides for the effective date, which is effective immediately. And I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Camerati. Just going back to your discussion of the funds for this, you said S13, just for the public certification, S13 SIPA account.
Sure, Mr. Chairman, S13 as in the SIPA account or the Strategic Investments and Projects account.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have any public testimony on this bill? Ms. Camerati, thank you for that brief description of this bill. We're closing public comment. What is the committee's pleasure? Move to pass. Do I have a second? Okay, moved by Representative Harrelson, seconded by Representative Pendergraft. Ms. Childress, would you please take the roll?
Roll call vote on 25 LSO-0556, state-funded capital construction, do pass. Representative Alaman? Aye. Representative Angelos? Aye. Representative Harrelson?
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft?
Aye.
Representative Sherwood? Aye. Representative Smith?
Aye.
Chairman Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, 7 ayes.
Thank you. Before I close this out, I just want the public to know we will be having a joint appropriations meeting this evening to continue our work on the budget. And we look forward to seeing many of you there. Thank you. Everyone have a good afternoon. We are adjourned.